Continuing on, I went ahead and put all the information here in the favorites website just so you can get a good example of what yours should look like. So obviously the UL and the LI items will be the same, but your addresses and your actual content of the clickable item will be different for your 5 websites. Okay, now let's go ahead and address the navigation in here. And let's start with the index page. So I'm on favorites now. I'll click on this tab to go to index. We're going to do something that's not really a best practice here, or well, I wouldn't say it's really hurts anything, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to make even the main page link to the main page. So I want all these links to look the same. If I don't make the main page a clickable, linkable item, then it looks different. Now there are workarounds on that, and you'll see the best ones when we work on the CSS. So let's just go ahead, and we know that we need our opening and closing A tags around. Let's just do both of these. Almost there. Just a little side note, something I wanted you to notice. If these numbers turn red over here, the line numbers for your code, it indicates that Dreamweaver believes there's a problem with your code. See if you can figure out what it is. Time's up. Okay, so what I did was I didn't put the / in here, and watch when I do that, that goes away. Okay, so now that we have the A's in there, let's go ahead and put the href. Do the same thing here, and it's nice as soon as we put the cursor in there, space out, we get some hints. As soon as we hit the H, we get more defined hints, and then we can just double click there, and then all we need to do is put the address in now. Let's start with the web knowledge page here. We haven't made it yet, but when we know that when we do, it's going to go inside of this pages folder. So because of that, we know that it will start with the folder name and then a / to indicate that that was a folder, and now telling it to look for a file. So we could just call it no, short for knowledge, and HTML, and then all we have to do is just remember that that's what we called it here, so that when we name the page, that's what we name it. If we goof that up, we just have to either come back here and change this to the name of the page, or go over into the files and change the name of the page to match what's over here. They just have to be the same. Okay, now the index page, and by the way, I'm going to show you before we put this in here, if in the future you want to have a link look like a link but not go anywhere, all you have to do is inside of the quotations is put the #. But I do actually want you to code it. So we're on the index page. It's not inside of a folder, anything like that. It's right there at the same level, so it's just simply going to be index.html. And then it would be smart to go ahead and check that in a browser real quick to make sure that everything is working. In fact, I want to show you one thing in particular that happens here. And notice that we've been saving our pages all along, because every time we go to preview them, the program forces us to. But just remember that you'll want to, if you're not doing that, save your pages. But I highly encourage you to check them as you go. So we're on the main page right now. If we click it, you can see by looking at this progress bar that it actually did something. It just went right back to this page, but it was already loaded in the browser, so we didn't see the refresh. The favorites page, click on that. That works fine. Go back to the main page. Now if we click on the web knowledge page, we get this error, and that's because that page doesn't exist yet. Now let's finish the navigation on the favorites page. So we know that the favorites page is down here inside of this folder. So to get to the index, we had to tell it to come up out of the folder and then look for a page called index. And that's what that ... come up means. Now to get to these two pages, let's see if you can figure it out. Now I'll go ahead and start to populate it. Okay, so I have the opening and closing tags in there with the hrefs. And if I want to go to the web knowledge page from the favorites page, keeping in mind that they're both going to be inside of pages, I don't have to go up, I don't have to go down, they're just right there. So assuming that the name of that page is going to be no.html, And if we click this one, it'll just take us right back to where we are. So that's just going to be fav.html. One more thing about saving. When you work on a page and you have unsaved changes, you get a little asterisk right up here next to the file name. And you may get to the point where you have 5, 10 different pages open and you're bouncing back between them. You can always do this to save you some time saving. You can go File, Save All. So that saves all open pages in the site. So other than that last page being made, now would be a good time to go and see what we have left to check off on this list. So website will be uploaded. We haven't really talked about that in the video series yet, but I'll show you that. But what this means is just leave it there. Don't start monkeying around with the CSS or anything until I email the class letting you know that all the grades have been input for the site. We already talked about that. So make sure when you create that third new page that you properly title it in the head section. The H1 will have a consistent look from page to page. So all that means is that it's kind of a annoying thing on websites if you click from one page to the next and the header jumps around. So this should stay put and the navigation should stay put. Only things below the navigation should change when you go to a different page. Okay, and then this stuff in here, if you've been following along with me, you are doing the ordered and unordered lists the same way that I did. I gave away which H tags I were using. They're all H1, 2, or 3s. Navigation, you can get to any page from any page of the 3 pages. Once we complete the other page, that'll be fine. Did all of this. So this is the only section that's missing right now. We can check off everything in here, including that the pages open in a blank of our favorites. And our 2 pages other than the main page are inside of a folder, and so is the image. So at this point, you can probably stop watching. I'm going to go ahead just for anyone who has problems with this last page, and I'll knock that out right now. So you probably can guess that if we were to copy one of these pages for our additional page, the favorites would make the most sense because the navigation would be identical. In other words, we would be inside of this folder here, and so to get to the other one, in other words, we'll be working on knowledge to get to favorites. It's right there. To get to index, we have to come up. So that makes the most sense. We can just go ahead, create a new page, and then we'll copy the contents. Or actually maybe a step quicker would be to just make sure that everything is saved right now, and then click on the favorites page and then do a file save as, and then make sure that we're inside of pages, which I can tell that I am right here. But if we want to be extra sure, just make sure we go into our local root folder. Then inside the local root folder, there's our images folder and our pages folder. Double click to go inside of there. Change the name of this to no, because that's what we called it in the code here, the link. Navigation is going to be fine. The only thing that's going to be a major change is just what's inside of here. This is no longer going to be an unordered list. It's going to become an ordered list. And then we're going to have all of those different list items inside of here. We'll have to go count those out to see how many times we'll copy this. Before we do that, take care of the title. So something to the effect of my web knowledge page will be fine. Okay, so the title's been taken care of. I took a look at the grade sheet and there are a total of 9 of these, so we just need to paste that in there so we get a total of 9. And at this point, you can just go out to my example website. Don't copy the number because the code will generate that. Put all this stuff in here just the way it is, and then go ahead and change your answers. Okay, one more to go. And then all you have to do is say HTML. And this is if this is your first time using it. You know, maybe say, you know, just put exactly what your situation is. Something like that. And then at this point, we can go ahead, do a file, save all. Maybe go back to the index page and start our preview in a browser out from there. And we just want to verify that we can get to any page from any page. So I would just click on all three links on every page. So it takes me to the knowledge, so I'll go back, click on favorites. So I've tested all three of them from this page. Then I'll go to the second page. I can go to the main page, I'll go back. I can obviously click on that, it leaves me where I am. From here I can go to the favorites page. Great. So now we've tested all three on the first two. Now we're on the favorites. Let's test the main page. Perfect. Favorites, web knowledge, favorites, and favorites from favorites. Now, we've saved everything, but as I mentioned in an earlier video, one of the smartest things that you can do as a designer is to make copies of your entire folders. So I'm going to navigate to the folder. So here's my local root folder that I've been working on. A smart thing to do would just be make another folder, like I'll do something like this, like ready to turn in HTML site, or start it with the word HTML site, whatever. And then I'll just take and make a copy of this folder from here. So I'm going to click and drag, hold down the option key so I get that little plus sign, and now inside of here is my folder ready to turn in. And then I could go and experiment with this site and learn a whole bunch more stuff with Dreamweaver and HTML5. Just to avoid any confusion, when you do that, you just have to remember which site you're working on and which site Dreamweaver is pointing to that you're working on. So I put my finished one in here. So I don't want to mess with that. So Dreamweaver would still be pointing at this one. I can go ahead and keep working. But let's say that I'm just reviewing this before I'm about to turn it in and I notice there's a mistake on it. So what I would do is go into Dreamweaver, make sure that I close everything down that's opened up in here, and then go to I can either go through Site and Manage Sites, or I could just simply double click right here, which will open this up, and then I click right here on the site that I'm managing, and then I would just have to point it to the new folder where I saved, or point it to the folder and the new location so that I can continue to make my corrections. Okay, so that's it. I think I covered everything you need for that, and in the next video we'll talk about putting it up live on the web.